Did TikTok break the dance industry? This is the case study of 1MILLION Dance Studio. Once the hub of the dance choreography empire on YouTube, raking not just 1 million, but hundreds of millions of views per video. Lia Kim, the founder of the business, dominated K-pop choreography, working with huge names, and the studio birthed some of the most iconic choreographers that we know and love. But now, in 2026, despite having more than 26 million subscribers, many of 1 million's videos struggle to break even 100,000 views, often featuring choreographers that feel less familiar than the earlier generation. Lia Kim is still involved in major projects even recently, including work on a Blackpink's Jump music video, but it's not nearly as many as it used to be, and her presence today seems more conceptual and behind the scenes, rather than the frontline choreographer who once dominated major K-pop releases. So what happened? Welcome to the Dance Study. I'm your host Mel. I used to be a dancer choreographer for nearly 10 years. I also have a master's in business analysis, and I have worked in marketing for the last 6 years. And in this series, I'll be breaking down deeper the business, marketing, and culture side of street dance. Let's rewind back to 2015. This is teenage me. Just like many other young dancers at that time, I was a passionate, fiery dance student who would go straight to the studio after school, still in my uniform, practicing from noon to late evening. And when I finally went home, I still hadn't had enough of dance. And I would go on YouTube and scour the internet for dance videos because I was so hungry to learn and be inspired by. This was when big names such as Keone and Marie Madrid, Ian Eastwood, Lia Kim, Ai Hasegawa really popularized dance videos on YouTube. There was a huge hunger and thirst from dancers like me to be inspired. But access was limited. Not everyone had proper filming equipment, and many dance videos had inconsistent quality, weird angles, and bad lighting, or they came from dance camps that only happen once a year. And yet the appetite for dance videos were higher than ever, especially with the rise of K-pop. Then enters 1 million. At that time, because of the dance correlation with hip-hop culture, it was common to see studios with colorful graffiti murals or huge logos dominating the background. It definitely made sense as a branding. But 1 million came in and disrupted that definition. Suddenly, a studio with clean, light gray walls and floors that didn't distract from the dancers, moody but controlled studio lighting, and a filming crew for each class. There were clear creative decisions behind everything. From choreography choices to the color scheme of the clothes that the dancers wear, it felt premium. One thing Lia Kim understood was branding. And beyond branding, 1 million provided consistency. We didn't have to wait for the next urban dance camp. We didn't have to wait for the next random upload from a choreographer and wonder when's the next one gonna come out. There were multiple high-quality videos released every single week. And all of that combined, boom, explosion. The views came in, then the industry came. Lia Kim and 1 million choreographers work on iconic K-pop songs like ITZY by Twice, Gashina by Sunmi, and projects for Everglow, MAMAMOO, ITZY, one after another. The biggest name in K-pop were calling the same studio. 1 million wasn't just making content, they were making culture. They raised the bar for every other studios that came before them. And alongside the commercial work, the YouTube channel was building something rarer, a community. Not just fans of K-pop group or a song, but fans of choreographers themselves. People started recognizing and idolizing instructors like Minam Young, Mei Jae Lee, Hyojin Choi, and Sorin Na. Their videos were attracting millions of views. Minam Young's choreography work is probably still one of my favorite pieces that 1 million has ever put out. But when you look at Google Trends Analytics, you can see a clear decline in search interest for 1 million dance since around 2016. And the same pattern follows for Lia Kim. So what broke this perfectly branded machine? If I'm honest, as a viewer and also a fan of the dance industry, my behavior changed. Back then, I would go to 1 million's channels and just watch videos after videos without even knowing who the choreographer was. I trusted the studio name and I knew the quality of the video and also the choreography will be good. The more videos that I watched, the more familiar I became to certain choreographers that I really liked the style of. But now, I will only click a dance video if they're hosting a class from the choreographer that I already know and like. And that shift from an audience says a lot. The first major shift was viewing behavior. When TikTok exploded around 2018 and 2019, 1 million followed and uploaded short-form content as well. On paper, they were doing everything right. And with dance becoming even more mainstream, shouldn't they be more popular than ever? But their original competitive advantage was access. Professional studio space, lighting, filming crew, distribution through YouTube. That was a real moat in 2016. Once TikTok arrived, a ring light and a phone could reach millions. Phone camera quality improved significantly. Editing became accessible, so choreographers who previously had no distribution infrastructure could now build real audiences independently. The moat didn't shrink. It kind of completely disappeared. And more importantly, the platform shift didn't just change the way that people watched dance videos, it also changes the way that people discovered it. 1MILLION used to be the main funnel for quality K-pop choreography content. They were the gatekeepers. But once platforms became decentralized, the gate was gone. And while the shifts are already happening, Street Woman Fighter, a show that showcases dancers in a form of a reality TV, really shocked the dance industry. Because once a dancer's most successful career was to be a backup dancer for big artists, are now able to showcase themselves to be the main star of the stage. And when Street Woman Fighter 1 came around, that really exposed other studio names, other major choreographers in K-pop beyond just 1MILLION.
수우파 1이 나오기 전에는 내가 다 약간 대세였던 느낌.
맞아, 리아 킴
들어
시대.
내가 1순위였던 거야. 어느 순간 이제 수우파 1이 딱 나오면서 섭외가 아예 안 들어오기 시작한 거 진짜.
그게 배하는 거지.
1MILLION later joined the stage of Street Woman Fighter in the second season. And to be fair, they actually did very well. They made it all the way to the final stage and won some memorable missions along the way. But despite that strong performance, their presence on the show felt somewhat overshadowed, especially by the viral breakout stars of the season, dancers like Badali from Bebe and Kirsten from Jam Republic. In a way, the show accelerated a broader shift that was already happening online. With platforms like TikTok and programs like Street Woman Fighter, people are now discovering dancers individually and following the dancers first rather than the studio behind them. And that brings us to the second point. At their peak, there were recognizable names appearing in viral video after viral video. And because so many people were watching 1MILLION at that time, audiences naturally built a kind of emotional connection to those choreographers. They weren't just instructor in a studio anymore, they became familiar faces of the channel. So when those names slowly disappeared, people noticed. Does anyone know what happened to Eno? Whatever happened to Sorina? I miss the old days at 1MILLION. What happened to an entire generation of choreographers? What happened to May J. Lee? And it's a bit like when a long-running TV show suddenly loses some of its main characters. The show might still continue, but the dynamic feels different. And even though new talent comes in, it's hard to recreate the same attachment that viewers had with the original cast. And I quote, "I kinda lost interest in their dance video ever since these choreographers have been absent." Yeah, me too. I keep watching their videos, although there are some new skilled choreographers, it's just not the same anymore. We don't really know the reason why they leave, because dancers rarely air their internal conflicts publicly. Which is why it was so striking when the departure of MAMAMOO became a major narrative point on Street Woman Fighter 2. From my perspective, what we saw wasn't just drama, it was a business disagreement. So let's unpack it together. And this is not a criticism towards MAMAMOO, Lia Kim, or 1MILLION, because we don't really know the real situation and what their contracts look like. But I do think this is a great opportunity to start conversations in the street dance industry surrounding pay and credit.
Pay? 잘 몰랐거든요.
MAMAMOO expressed that in the K-pop projects she worked on, she felt she had taken the role of the main choreographer and believed that the pay and credit should reflect that responsibility.
근데 저는 바라는 게 딱 하나. 시안 페이만 좀 높여달라. 그 시안 페이조차 되지 않았어요. 나는 그만한 가치가 없구나.
Another point that she raised was how choreography credits were presented. In some cases, Lia Kim was listed among the main choreographers on the projects where MAMAMOO felt that she is the one who worked on the piece.
본인이 다 안무를 100% 다 짠 거는 과연 뭘까? 총괄 디렉터면 총괄 디렉터라고 써야지. 리아킴 코리오그래피라고 하면 안 되지.
같이 짠 거잖아요. 나도 같이 짠 거잖아. 근데 왜?
In the K-pop industry, credit is not just about ego. Credit determines future jobs, reputation, who artists will call next, and if a choreography becomes iconic, the name attached to it gains long-term leverage. So when two people are credited, but one feels they carried the primary creative load, that tension isn't petty. it directly affects the career trajectory. Of course, from the outside, we can't really know how those choreographies are actually made. And the issue isn't who was right, but creative work is often collaborative. And unless you were in that studio during those sessions, it's difficult to determine exactly who contributed what. The issue is that when the roles are not clearly structured, credit becomes subjective. And when credit becomes subjective, resentment builds. What this situation highlights is a broader structural issue within the street dance industry. Unlike more established creative industries, choreography and dance often operate without clear standards for contracts, compensations, or crediting. And because of that, disagreement over pay, recognition, and authorship are not uncommon. So while the details of this particular situation remain between the people involved, the larger theme it reflects is something that the dance industry has been grappling for a long time: the lack of formal infrastructure around creative labor. Dancers traditionally see themselves as artists first, not business entities. Long-term partnerships like Mina and Lia's nearly decade-long collaboration are built on trust and shared history. That works when the stakes are smaller. But when budgets grow, visibility expands, and choreography becomes part of an artist's brand, the lack of infrastructure starts to show. Who's the main choreographer? What qualifies as the creative direction? How is compensation calculated? If those aren't structurally defined, they are left to interpretation, and interpretation is fragile. And I've seen this personally. I've witnessed massive dance groups fall apart over pay, compensations, and unclear revenue splits. So what can we learn from all of this? 1MILLION entered the industry at exactly the right time. With strong branding, consistent production, high-quality choreographies, and connection to K-pop, they became one of the most powerful choreography studios of the YouTube era. But a strong branding alone isn't enough to sustain influence. What truly builds longevity is the emotional connections that the audience have with the people behind the brand. At 1MILLION's peak, people weren't just watching the studio. They were following the choreographers that appear on those viral videos over and over again. So when many of those faces gradually disappeared, the connections also inevitably weakened. And moments of tension surrounding the departure of Mina Myung also reveal a larger issue, which is the structural challenges that still exist within the street dance industry itself, where issues around pay, credit, and authorships are often unclear. In a more decentralized dance ecosystem, where viewers now connect and follow the individual dancers directly, that loss of connections to their audience is the reason why 1MILLION branding itself couldn't withstand the changing industry landscape. But what do you think? Feel free to comment your opinions and your thoughts down below, and also like and subscribe if you enjoyed the analysis. And yeah, thanks so much for watching.